Here's my best advice of where you can spend 100k in and around the Hull area. Whether you're an investor, a first-time buyer, live in the local area or thinking about investing, here's a selection of properties that I picked for you. I'm often asked by people, I've got X amount of budget, where should I spend it? So what I've done today is pick a handful of properties that I think offer good growth and a good return and somewhere that I would consider investing in. Now it's difficult to comment on certain areas because it's all subjective. Some people like a certain area, some people don't. So what I've tried to do when selecting the properties is pick ones that will have good growth and potentially a good yield. I've bought or sold properties in nearly every area of Hull, so this is my best advice for starting out. I picked these properties because they're in a high demand rental area, or they've got potential for good capital growth, or they're cheap and more accessible to your average investor or first time buyer. So property one is Worcester Road, HU5. HU5 is Hull's biggest postcode, the popular Newland Avenue and Princes Avenue, with a great choice of restaurants and bars. HU5 is one of Hull's most diverse postcodes. You've got properties ranging from 40,000 up to 400, 500,000 on the avenues, and that being said, even up to 700,000 on Newland Park. The reasons I've picked this property is: one, it's cheap; two, it needs minimal work. So for a first-time investor and first-time buyer, a lot of the work appears to be cosmetic. Number three, it would provide a pretty acceptable return of around about 7 or 8%. Another point to add, extended properties are selling up to 130,000. So in terms of capital growth and to add value for the future, it'd be perfect buy. So property two, Clarence Avenue, HU9. The main reason I picked this property is, well, it's £25,000. If you're not from Hull, it might seem as a bit of a shock that you can still get properties for £25,000. Now the price reflects the surrounding area. It's semi-industrial, a bit rough around the edges, but it does have potential for growth. Siemens factories within walking distance, and they are currently investing £186 million. So this property is for auction. So depending on what you end up paying and what works required, let's just say you end up all in at £50,000 and the rent is £400 a month, then that's still going to provide a yield of around about 9 to 10%. Property number three, Olstead Avenue, HU6. The reason I picked this property is it's close by to the uni. It has good transport links through to Beverley and Kingswood Retail Park. This property on the surface of it looks cheap and could be a good potential flip. They can sell up to around about 140,000 and it looks as though it needs mainly cosmetic work. So there is good chance for capital growth there on this investment. So property 4 and 5 are HU6 postcode again, and they're both up for auction for £25,000 and £30,000. These properties are ex-council and non-standard construction. Now that's not to put you off, it just means you've got to proceed with caution. You've got to approach the right lender who will look at non-standard construction. So my best advice is to get a good broker in your corner who will approach the right lender who will accept non-standard constructions. So non-standard construction is a term used in the lending world that refers to a property that's not been built with typical or standard materials like brick walls or slate and tiled roofs. Now I won't go into too much detail and I'll save that for another video. So don't let the construction type of this property put you off. These properties could be worth 90 to 100 grand once done, and the rental figures they could bring back are around 500 to 600 pounds per month. Now chances are by the time you get round to watching this video, some of these properties may have already sold. As the market's quite strong at the moment, they're not hanging around very long. What I've tried to do with this video is try and handpick a few that might give you a good reference point and a starting point of where to look in the city. To keep up to date with similar property deals and news, follow my social medias, which will be linked below, and you can also subscribe to the channel.